Hi, I'm Travis Bushaw, your 2025 Iowa Realtors State President, and I'm here with Justin Hayes, our General Counsel for Iowa Realtors, and we're going to actually talk just very briefly about something that's happening, honestly, all corners of the state. We've seen it in all of our markets, and something that's becoming more and more prevalent really across the United States, and that's deed and title fraud, especially when it comes to bare land and vacant lots.
Absolutely.
So talk to us about what we've seen, because we know we've seen some get flagged early on. We've seen some that have gone all the way through closing and realized after the fact that we've got a major issue. So fill us in a little bit, kind of what gives us the red flags and what our options are.
Certainly. So as far as red flags, identifying fraudsters, there are a couple of key things you want to look for. So first, they're looking for below market sales. Second, they're looking for quick cash closings, and there's an emphasis on the speed of the transaction. They have a desire not to have a for sale sign on the yard because they don't want to advertise their fraud. They're out of the state or out of the country and will only communicate electronically, never in person and never on video. They only want electronic signings and only remote notaries when it gets to that point. And then they only want wire transfers for proceeds. So those are the 6 flags you should look for in your transaction. When you start to get to 1 or 2, you really need to raise the antenna and make sure that you know who you're dealing with, right?
Yeah, and then the ones that we've seen, I mean, these are very sophisticated scams. Where they are creating fake identification, and that's why they want the remote notaries. But I mean, they are fully aware of the fact that in Iowa, we need an abstract. So they know to say, oh, I don't have an abstract on it. It sounds like they're also going after properties that don't have any loans or any judgments against or liens against it, so that we don't have to worry about getting any types of payoff. So it sounds like they've got a pretty sophisticated system, which is also scary for us because it's harder to find those flags.
Absolutely.
So if we flag something or we just don't feel right about it, and so like you said, maybe 2 of those things out of the 6, or like, this doesn't seem right. Like, then what?
So as you start to get more and more of these red flags and you're looking for actions that you can take, well, there are a couple. So first, you can notify the owner of the property if you can find them. That might require a little social media searching or even a little bit of forewarn activity, but really, to the extent that you can reach out to the owner of that property, you should let them know that, or at least verify that they're attempting to sell the property, right? Second, you want to check your E&O coverage, and you want to figure out what it says about fraud, because there could be situations where you're seen as helping to perpetrate that fraud. You don't want to be left out in the cold in that regard. Third, contact law enforcement. This is a big deal. And not just local law enforcement, but you should also contact state or county law enforcement and even federal law enforcement. There is a website called ic3.gov that actually deals with these fraud issues. That is the FBI's website for logging these land fraud issues. Go make contact there, or have the owner of the property make contact there if you can find them. All right, so fourth, if you've got the property up on the MLS, you want to remove it immediately and take down any advertisements quickly. And then fifth, you can notify the Attorney General's Consumer Fraud Division. They specialize in these investigations into consumer fraud, deed and title fraud, so right into their purview. So that's an option as well. And then the very last thing, and I always give this as a piece of advice, I probably should give it less, but contact a private attorney. You need to speak with somebody who can tell you about your rights and your obligations under this situation and help protect you and your interests.
And obviously talking to your broker. So if you are a member and your broker needs to be aware of this going on. And in instances that we've seen where it was flagged and thankfully didn't get anywhere, sometimes it was a neighbor that actually said, hey, surprised that they're going to sell their home. We just saw them last week. And those conversations of adjacent owners of property have been helpful. But the biggest thing was if it just doesn't seem right, being careful here and taking the extra steps preventatively and talking to your broker early on and saying, hey, heard about this happening, don't know if we need to look further into it, but here's what's going on. Then your broker's aware of what's going on, and they can then also reach out to the Attorney General's office, law enforcement, and figure out what is the major issue here, and is it something that we need to really look into deeper.
And those 2 things you just touched on are very important. It's the importance of having community ties, so the neighbors being aware or knowing the neighbors, and that way they can let you know if you're out there inspecting the property, like, hey, I don't think he actually wants to sell that, right?
Yeah.
That really helps. But also the importance of looping people in and trusting your gut. And if the situation doesn't feel right, it probably isn't right. Even if you can't actually tell what the issue is, trust your gut. You guys have good intuition.
Perfect. Thank you, Justin. We appreciate it.